then I will.
Does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze? When does a man become a monster? When does a ripple become a tidal wave? When does the reason become the blame? When does a man become a monster? I'm just a man.
40K alt timeline. Loyal Perturabo starts on Olympia after its sacking. We need a catalyst to trigger character growth. Foryx will mold Perturabo like he did in our timeline, just to a different end. Olympia burning. Something broke in Perturabo then. A neglected but essential component of himself gave way. Not in his body, whose workings he understood well enough, but in that numinous part of his being some might call a soul. He experienced it as a physical sensation, as surely as if a tendon had broken in his leg. No physical collapse came from it, but a rush of emotion instead. There was pain there and bewilderment, but there was something else that he had never felt before. Or perhaps he had, but had bottled it up so well that he no longer recognized the feeling. It took a moment for him to find the word. He had thought he had felt shame after the rare defeats he had suffered, or the times he had been confronted by other petty failures. But what he had thought of as shame he knew now as shallow wounded pride that had served only to spur him on to anger. This was something else, something total. It overwhelmed him. The devastation he had made of his adopted home took on a terrible clarity, as if his senses, dulled by years of brutal siege warfare, had been sharpened anew so that he might appreciate what he had done. Blood. There was the smell of so much blood. "I have become Kurz," he said hoarsely. His excuse was insanity. "What is mine? My temper?" He sagged against the window, his weight so great the block shifted under his grasp, and the glass he had not yet broken cracked. He thought of what his brothers would think. He saw Caliphone was right that he had stood aside and expected to be feted, becoming angry when he had not been. Falsely interpreting his brother's lack of praise for hatred of him, he had viciously set himself to proving himself worthy of their opprobrium. How he had succeeded. "The Emperor will never forgive us for this," he whispered to himself. "The Emperor will never forgive us. The Emperor cannot forgive us, ever." He repeated this over and over again like he were a neophyte given the secret chants of the Legion. For the first time, Perturabo had found a new, unbreakable litany. Foryx found him like that hours later, after nightfall. The first captain entered through the broken gates, a cohort of dominators behind him. "My lord," he said, "the city is ours. As you commanded, those suitable for service as serfs have been taken. We are in the process of testing appropriate youths for induction into the Legion. 4/5 of the population are enslaved or dead. The 29th Grand Battalion is in the process of constructing the warning pyre, so—" "Stop," said Perturabo hoarsely. He turned a haunted face lit by the capering light of the city's death upon his first captain. His cheeks glistened. "Enough." Seeing the look upon his Primarch's face and the tears coursing down it, Foryx turned back to his dominators. "Leave us! Now!" The Terminators dumped from the hall. Foryx stood, his gaze unwavering, as he watched the turmoil consuming his Primarch. He knew he had to tread carefully, to navigate the treacherous currents of Perturabo's fractured psyche. "My lord," Foryx began, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "What has transpired here today? It weighs heavily upon us all. But dwelling on it now will not undo what has been done. We must look forward, find a path through this darkness." Perturabo's eyes flickered, his expression a tumultuous storm of conflicting emotions. "But what path is there, Foryx?" he murmured. his voice strained. What redemption can there be for one who has wrought such devastation upon his own kin? Foryx moved closer, his resolve steeling against the despair that threatened to consume them both. Redemption lies not in dwelling on past sins, my lord, but in seeking to rectify them. We are sons of the Emperor, bound by duty and honor. We must rise above our failings, strive to be better than the sum of our mistakes. He paused, searching Perturabo's anguished face for any sign of comprehension. You speak of oaths, my lord. But remember, our oath to the Emperor is not just to conquer, but to protect, to safeguard humanity from the darkness that threatens to consume it. If we falter in that duty, then truly we are lost. Perturabo's gaze faltered, a flicker of uncertainty dancing in his eyes. Foryx pressed on, his words a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching shadows. We may have stumbled, my lord, but it is not too late to set things right. The Imperium needs us now more than ever. We must stand united shoulder to shoulder against the darkness that seeks to tear us apart. Silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the distant echoes of destruction outside. Perturabo seemed lost in thought, grappling with the weight of his own conscience, but slowly, imperceptibly, a glimmer of resolve began to kindle within him. Finally, he spoke, his voice heavy with determination. You are right, Foryx, he conceded, his tone firm. We cannot undo the past, but we can forge a new future, one where we honor our oaths, uphold the Emperor's will, and stand as beacons of hope in a galaxy consumed by darkness. With a heavy sigh, Perturabo straightened, the weight of his burden seeming to lift ever so slightly. Prepare the Thunderhawk, he commanded, his voice steady. We have much to atone for, but together we shall endure. For the Imperium, for humanity. And as Foryx bowed in silent acquiescence, a glimmer of hope bloomed amidst the ruins, a beacon of light amidst the encroaching darkness. Chapter 1. The Path to Redemption. Perturabo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Blood, his gaze fixed upon the charred remnants of Olympia fading into the void behind them. Beside him stood Foryx, his first captain, and the other warriors of his trident, their expressions a mixture of relief and uncertainty. Prepare a Vox transmission, Perturabo commanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. I have orders to relay. As the crew scrambled to fulfill their Primarch's command, Perturabo turned to his advisors, the warriors he had long overlooked in favor of his machines. They had borne the brunt of his scorn, their counsel ignored in favor of his own solitary deliberations. But now, in the wake of his revelation on Olympia, Perturabo found himself humbled by their loyalty and wisdom. To those who defied my orders to burn Olympia, Perturabo began, his voice steady but tinged with remorse, I grant clemency. They are to be spared and reinstated to active duty, those who managed to survive, of course. A murmur of surprise rippled through the ranks of his trident, mingled with whispers of disbelief. But Perturabo silenced them with a raised hand, his gaze unwavering. Furthermore, he continued, a contingent of our soldiers will remain on Olympia to aid in its reconstruction. We will not enslave its population, but instead strive to build a better life for our people. As Perturabo spoke, a sense of determination settled over the bridge, a newfound purpose born from the ashes of their past transgressions. The warriors of the Iron Warriors Legion, once scorned as soulless machines, now stood ready to atone for their sins and forge a new path forward. And what of those who resisted our orders? Foryx inquired, his voice low but filled with resolve. Perturabo smiled, a terrifying and rarely seen expression upon their Primarch's face. They will be left on Olympia to recruit for our Legion and rebuild the planet. Our Legion will be all the better if men like them are raising up and training the future warriors of our Legion, he declared. We leave them to rule while we seek our atonement. With a final nod, Perturabo turned back to the viewport, his gaze fixed upon the distant horizon. Prepare to set course for Terra, he commanded. "We have much to answer for, but together we shall seek redemption in the eyes of the Emperor." And as the iron blood surged forward into the void, the echoes of their resolve reverberated through the ship, a testament to the newfound unity of the Iron Warriors' Legion. Chapter 2. The Ambush. As the Iron Warriors' fleet journeyed through the warp towards Terra, they were beset by a sudden and unexpected assault. Without warning, the sky erupted in a blaze of light as the Emperor's Children Legion descended upon them, their gleaming vessels cutting through the void like blades of silver. Perturabo watched in disbelief as the once familiar ships of his brother Legion turned traitor, their elegant forms twisted into instruments of war. He had been delayed time and again by warp storms, cut off from communication with the wider Imperium. And now, Perturabo found himself facing betrayal from one of his own brothers. "Battle stations!" he bellowed, his voice ringing out over the din of alarms and klaxons. "Prepare to repel boarders." As the Iron Warriors braced for impact, a single smooth voice could be heard throughout their ship, on every vox. It was Fulgrim, the once proud Primarch turned traitor. "We come as brothers," Fulgrim declared, his voice honeyed but laced with malice. "To offer you a choice, stand with the War Master or die." But before Perturabo could respond, the treacherous Primarch unleashed a barrage of firepower upon the Iron Warriors' fleet, his betrayal laid bare for all to see. "Fire at will!" Perturabo roared, his voice drowned out by the deafening roar of cannons and gunfire. "Show these traitors the folly of their ways!" And so, amidst the chaos of battle, the Iron Warriors fought with a new-found ferocity, their resolve unbroken despite the odds stacked against them. For they knew that even in the darkest hour, they stood united in their loyalty to the Emperor and the Imperium. Perturabo fleet ambushed and unprepared had let those bastards right in. They were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and had no cohesion. He thought of his beloved brother Horus, and he made up his mind. He voxed Forix. "We are commencing a boarding action. Prepare the trident." And with a command, his iron circle followed him towards his transport ships. Perturabo fought his way to Fulgrim. Once he made it to the command deck and was face to face with his brother, his cold Demonor melted away to fury at the sight of his brother wielding Forgebreaker, the hammer of Ferrus Manus. How did he get it? Did he kill him? Or does this treachery and madness go deeper than he had thought? He engaged his brother in single combat. His sons fanned out, and engaged the best Fulgrim's Legion had to offer. As the battle raged on, Perturabo found himself locked in a fierce duel with his once-beloved brother, Fulgrim. The two Primarchs clashed amidst the swirling chaos of the battlefield, their blows reverberating like thunder through the void. "You have fallen far, Fulgrim," Perturabo growled, his voice thick with confusion and anger, "to turn against your own kin and embrace treachery. What madness has gripped your mind?" Fulgrim's laughter cut through the chaos, a mocking sneer plastered across his face. "Madness," he scoffed, effortlessly parrying Perturabo's strikes. "Perhaps you're the one who's lost his mind, Perturabo, sacking Olympia like a petulant child throwing a tantrum." Perturabo's jaw clenched, fury boiling within him at Fulgrim's callous words. "You dare mock me, Fulgrim," he spat, each word dripping with venom. "You, who have betrayed everything we once stood for. You are nothing but a coward and a traitor." But Fulgrim merely grinned, his eyes gleaming with malice. "Coward? Traitor?" he taunted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "At least I had the courage to embrace my true desires, unlike you, hiding behind your facade of loyalty to the Emperor." The words struck deep, fueling the flames of Perturabo's rage. With each strike he sought to crush the smug arrogance from Fulgrim's face, to remind him of the bonds they had once shared as brothers. "You have taken from me, Fulgrim," Perturabo snarled, his voice resonating with righteous fury, "the lives of my sons sacrificed at your altar of betrayal. But mark my words, your treachery will not go unpunished." Fulgrim's laughter echoed through the void, a chilling reminder of the depths of his depravity. "You speak of punishment, yet you stand here, a broken shell of a Primarch." he mocked, his words a cruel jest. Perhaps it is you who should learn the true cost of betrayal, Perturabo. But amidst the chaos of battle, a glimmer of resolve began to stir within Perturabo's heart. Beneath the veneer of Fulgrim's arrogance, he sensed a flicker of doubt, a crack in the facade of his treachery. "You were always a master of deceit, Fulgrim," Perturabo growled, his voice tinged with grim determination. "But even now, I see through your lies, and I will not rest until justice is served." And with that, Perturabo launched himself back into the fray, his blows raining down upon Fulgrim with unrelenting fury. For he knew that even amidst the darkness of betrayal, redemption still lingered on the horizon, waiting to be seized by those with the courage to fight for it. As the clash between Perturabo and Fulgrim reached its crescendo, the Lord of Iron's fury burned bright. Amidst the chaos of battle, amidst the clash of steel and the roar of cannon fire, he found a moment to confront his brother. "What of Ferrus Manus?" Perturabo demanded, his voice a thunderous growl that cut through the din of war. For the first time, Fulgrim's smug facade faltered, replaced by a flicker of discomfort that danced in his eyes. "Ferrus?" he stammered, a hint of uncertainty tainting his words. But Perturabo needed no confirmation. In that fleeting moment of hesitation, he knew the truth. Fulgrim had killed Ferrus Manus, his own brother, in cold blood. The realization hit Perturabo like a hammer blow, igniting a firestorm of rage within him. "You," he snarled, his voice trembling with fury. "You killed him!" Fulgrim recoiled, his composure slipping further as he found himself on the defensive. "Yes," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it was necessary. Ferrus stood in the way of our ascension, of our rightful place at Horus's side." The mention of Horus's name only served to stoke the flames of Perturabo's rage. "Horus!" he spat, his voice laced with venom. "What treachery is this?" And then, amidst the chaos of battle, Fulgrim revealed the truth. He spoke of the Dropsite massacre, of Horus's betrayal and the deaths of Korax and Vulcan. He spoke of the shattered alliances and broken oaths that had plunged the Imperium into darkness. Perturabo listened in stunned silence, his mind reeling from the revelation. The magnitude of Horus's treachery, the depth of the betrayal, left him numb with disbelief. But as the truth sank in, a new resolve took hold. With a roar of defiance, Perturabo launched himself back into the fray, his blows fueled by righteous fury. As Perturabo's fury reached its peak, he drove Fulgrim back with relentless onslaughts. With a mighty blow, he knocked his treacherous brother to the ground, the force of the impact reverberating through the battlefield. Standing over Fulgrim, Perturabo's gaze fell upon the hammer Forgebreaker clenched tightly in his brother's grasp. It was a weapon wielded by Ferrus Manus himself, a symbol of honor and duty, now tainted by betrayal. In a moment of hesitation, Perturabo reached for the hammer, his fingers brushing against its cold metal. He wanted to end Fulgrim with Ferrus's own weapon, to deliver justice for the brother he had lost. But before he could act, Fulgrim's troops swarmed around them, their weapons raised in defense of their fallen Primarch. Perturabo's moment of hesitation had cost him dearly, leaving him vulnerable to the onslaught. With a curse, Perturabo retreated, his mind filled with fury and frustration. He knew they couldn't stay any longer, not with Fulgrim's forces rallying around him. Reluctantly, he ordered his sons to fall back, to retreat from the command deck and regroup on their transport ships. As they made their escape, Perturabo glanced back at the chaos unfolding behind them. The Emperor's Children Legion was in disarray, their ranks shattered by the Iron Warriors' relentless assault. They had inflicted enough damage to cripple their enemy, but the cost had been high. With a heavy heart, Perturabo gave the order to retreat towards Terra. They had to warn the Emperor of Horus's treachery, of the looming threat that threatened to tear the Imperium apart. Chapter 3. Arrival on Terra. Battered but alive, Perturabo and his sons arrived at Terra, their ships bearing the scars of battle as grim reminders of the trials they had faced. As they disembarked onto the hallowed ground of the Imperial Palace, Perturabo's demeanor remained as stoic and unyielding as ever. Word quickly spread of their arrival, and Perturabo found himself summoned to a cold meeting with Rogal Dorn, the stalwart defender of Terra. The atmosphere was tense as they stood face to face, the weight of their responsibilities bearing down upon them. "Dorn," Perturabo acknowledged, his voice devoid of warmth or camaraderie. Dorn wasted no time with pleasantries, his expression stern and unwavering. "Perturabo," he replied bluntly, his words laced with urgency. "The situation is dire. We need your strength and your expertise. I offer you command of the Phalanx and command of the Retribution Fleet." Perturabo's gaze hardened at the offer, his pride bristling at the notion of being handed commands as if they were mere gifts. He was not one to be swayed by flattery or manipulation, and he made that clear with his response. "You offer me commands as if they were scraps from your table," Perturabo retorted, his tone sharp and biting. "I am no pawn to be moved at your whim, Dorn." With that, Perturabo turned on his heel, his cloak billowing behind him, as he strode away from the meeting without so much as a backward glance. He had no intention of bowing to Dorn's demands, not when his pride and his principles were at stake. As he left the presence of Dorn and the imposing walls of the imperial palace behind him, Perturabo knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges and betrayals. But he was a primarch of the Emperor, and he would carve his own destiny, no matter the cost. Chapter 4. The Choice. Perturabo stood before Malcador, the Sigillite, his gaze heavy with guilt and regret. The devastation wrought upon Olympia weighed heavily upon him, and he sought redemption for his actions. "Malcador," Perturabo spoke, his voice tinged with remorse. "I have come to offer my service to the Emperor, to atone for the sins I have committed." Malcador regarded Perturabo with a solemn expression, understanding the turmoil within the Primarch's soul. "Perturabo," he said, his voice soft yet firm, "there is a choice before you, a chance for redemption. The Emperor's dream hangs in the balance, and only you can help preserve it." Malcador presented two options to Perturabo, each fraught with its own challenges and sacrifices. The first was to lead the Retribution Fleet, to command the mighty Phalanx and seek glory in the defense of Terra against the traitor legions. It was an opportunity for Perturabo to earn acknowledgement for his prowess in battle and mend his fractured relationship with Rogal Dorn. The second option, however, was a far more daunting task. Malcador spoke of the Emperor's secret project, the Webway, and the dire need for a Primarch to safeguard it. "Perturabo," Malcador explained, "the fate of humanity hinges upon the success of the Webway project. It is a task shrouded in secrecy, with little hope for recognition, but it is a burden that only you can bear." Perturabo's mind raced as he weighed his options, his desire for redemption warring with his thirst for acknowledgement. In the end, driven by his guilt and his determination to do better, he made his choice. "I will take the path of atonement," Perturabo declared, his voice resolute. "I will safeguard the Emperor's dream no matter the cost." With Malcador's blessing, Perturabo and his legion journeyed towards the impossible city, accompanied by Diocletian of the 10,000, a tribune among the custodians. Their objective? To reinforce Ra, the commander overseeing the custodian forces within the impossible city, and to unite with the defenders of the Emperor's dream. Together, they sought to solidify their defenses and fortify the Emperor's most revered project against the encroaching darkness.